Hello my dear friends and welcome to StudyIQ. I am Joy and today in this lecture we will discuss about the usage of private member bill in the parliament. First of all, let us analyze what is the current affair. There has been demands for a private legislation to construct Ram temple in Ayodhya, which led to the analysis of private member bills usage in the parliament so far. So, with the new demand for a private legislation, what is meant by a private legislation? Any member of parliament other than a minister is referred as a private member of the parliament. So, private legislation means a bill that is introduced by a member of the parliament who is not a minister. So, a private legislation has been in demand in order to construct Ram temple in Ayodhya, and because of this issue, an analysis of private members bill usage in the parliament so far has become an important current affair. So this is very important, especially for aspirants who are preparing for the UPSC examination. In the UPSC preliminary or in the mains examination, there can be a question on the analysis of private member legislations in the parliament so far. So let us discuss about it in this lecture. Let us first understand what is meant by a private member bill. So who is a private member? We have already said a member of parliament who is not a minister is referred to as a private member. So if a member of parliament either in the Rajya Sabha or in the Lok Sabha, if he or she is not a minister, he or she is referred to as a private member. And what is called a government bill? The bills that are introduced in the parliament by the ministers are referred. The bills that are introduced in the parliament by ministers are referred as government bills. So if a bill is introduced by a minister, it is a government bill, and if it is introduced by a member of parliament who is not a minister, it is called a private member bill. Hope you have a clear understanding of the difference between a private member bill and a government bill. Now, what is the key role of parliament? The most important function of the parliament is to make laws for the country. So, the parliament will have to discuss and debate on issues and make laws for the country. So, these laws can be either formed or introduced by the ministers or by the private members. So, initiative or this lawmaking can be initiated by the ministers or by the private members, and this initiative or initiation of this lawmaking is known as the introduction of bill. So, if a minister or a private member wants to bring in a new law for the country, he or she will have to initiate in the form of introduction of a bill, and the bill will be discussed and debated in the parliament, and once the bill is passed by both the houses of the parliament and gets the assent of the president, it becomes an act. So once a bill becomes the act, it becomes the law of the land. So this is how parliament is the law making body of the country. Now in case of the government bills, this is initiated by the ministers. So those bills which are introduced by the ministers, they will be backed by the government and it will reflect the legislative agenda of the government. Now what is the purpose of private members bills? The private members bills aims at drawing the attention of the government to certain issues in the society or in the existing legal framework, and this will require a legislative intervention. So this can be by any member other than a minister. So it can even be from the opposition. So if the other members other than ministers feels that certain issues in the country needs the attention of the government or requires an alteration in the existing legal framework or requires a law to be implemented, it will be brought in the parliament as a private member bill. Now, what is the mode of introduction of these bills in the parliament? Let us examine. So, let us first check the admissibility of the private members bill. So, whether the bill that is brought in by the private member, whether it should be admitted in the parliament or in the house, it is decided by the chairman in case of Rajya Sabha and speaker in case of Lok Sabha. So, the private members will bring in bills or legislations, and whether it should be admitted in the house whether it is admitted in the house is decided by the chairman and the speaker in case of Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha respectively. And regarding the procedure, it is almost the same for both the houses. And the private members, that is the member of parliament other than the ministers, they will have to give at least a month's prior notice before the bill can be listed for introduction. So before a bill is brought into the house, at least a 1 month's prior notice must be given to the chairman or to the speaker of the house. And how is the listing of this bill done? The house secretariat, that is, there is a secretariat for the Rajya Sabha and also for the Lok Sabha. So the house secretariat will examine the bill whether it complies with the constitutional provisions. And after the examination, if the secretariat is satisfied, this bill is listed. And the number of bills that can be introduced by a private member, it is limited to 3 per session. So in each session of the house, a private member bill can be introduced to a maximum limit of 3. But until 1997, it was 3 bills in a week. So what happened? This 3 bills in a week provision led to the piling of the bills, and once the bills are piled, what will happen? They will never be introduced or they will never be discussed. So because of this increasing number of private bills, the cap of the number of bills was limited to 3 private member bills per session. And the private members bill can only be discussed on Fridays. But the case of government bills, that is bills that are introduced by the ministers, they can be introduced and also discussed on any day, but private members bills can be introduced and also discussed only on Fridays. So this is one limitation. And the private members bills have been introduced and also discussed in the Rajya Sabha for 20 days in the last 3 years. So from this we will understand that there is a preference for the government bill in the parliament compared to the private members bill. So a government bill has got certain advantages or an upper hand in the parliament compared to the private members bill, because the government bill can be introduced any day, any number of bills can be introduced in one session of the parliament. Private members bill is limited to 3 and only on Friday it can be introduced. So in the government bill there is no need for prior notice, or the 1 month notice is not required. So from all this we understand that the government bill has got a preference in the parliament. Now let us check the procedure of introduction of a private members bill. So we have seen the members bill. So we have seen the private members bill can be introduced only on the Friday. So on a scheduled Friday, that is 1 month notice has to be given, and it has to be admitted by the speaker or the chairman. In case of Lok Sabha it is a speaker, in case of Rajya Sabha it is a chairman. So 1 month prior notice, and after it is admitted by the speaker or by the chairman, it will be listed. So it will be listed on a scheduled Friday, and on the scheduled Friday the private member bill, and on the scheduled Friday the private member will move a motion for the introduction of the bill. And this motion is usually not challenged or opposed. What is the reason? One, this bill is already admitted by the chairman or the speaker. And secondly, an examination of the bill is already done by the secretariat of the house. So because of these 2 reasons, this is usually not opposed. But there are exceptions to this. Some recent examples. One, in 2004. When a bill seeking to amend the preamble of the constitution was introduced by a private member, it was opposed in the parliament. And second example is in the year 2015. A bill to decriminalize the homosexuality was introduced in the Lok Sabha by a private member, and this was also opposed. So it was not able to be introduced in the parliament because the motion was defeated. So these 2 are some recent examples where the motion was opposed, but usually the motion will not be opposed. Now another important thing is that only a fraction of the private members bill will be taken up for the discussion. The bill will not be discussed in detail or completely. So only a part of the bill will be discussed. And thirdly, the Rajya Sabha draws a ballot to decide the sequence of the discussion of bills. So which bill should come at which number, it is decided by drawing a ballot. And if a private member's bill gets successful in the ballot, it has to wait until the conclusion of the ongoing debate. So this can lead to pendency of the bills. For example, a bill related to the sittings of Parliament was introduced in March 2017 and this bill was taken up for discussion only in August 2018. That means the bill has to wait a long time to be introduced and to be discussed in the Parliament. And if we look at the statistics, over the past 3 years, the Rajya Sabha has seen the introduction of 165 private members' bills, but discussion was concluded only on 18. So, this is a major shortcoming of the private members' bill. And also, a private members' bill that is introduced but not discussed in the Rajya Sabha will lapse when the member retires. So, in Rajya Sabha, 1/3 of its members retire every 2 years. So, if a member retires and if that private member has introduced a bill but that bill was not put into discussion, the bill will lapse with the retirement of the MP. Now what happens after the discussion? The bill will be discussed in the Parliament and after the discussion, the member who has introduced this bill has two choices. One is to withdraw the bill. This withdrawal can be on the request of the concerned minister or because of any other reason. Now, secondly, he or she has another choice, that is go ahead with the passage of the bill. So, in the first case, that is if the bill is withdrawn, then and there the bill gets removed. And in the second case, if it is taken ahead, in the second case, the bill is put to vote. And if the private member gets the support of the House, the bill will be passed. Let us take an example. In the year 1997, the Rajya Sabha passed a private members bill and this bill was aimed at amending the Aligarh Muslim University Act. So, the bill was passed in Rajya Sabha and after the bill is passed in one house, it moves to the second one, that is to the Lok Sabha. But then this bill went to the 6th Lok Sabha and the 6th Lok Sabha was dissolved and this led to the lapse of the bill. This is because a bill pending in the Lok Sabha will lapse whether it originates in the Lok Sabha or transmitted to it by the Rajya Sabha. So, the Aligarh Muslim University Amendment Bill was lapsed. Another example is the Rights of Transgender Persons Bill of 2014. In 2015, this bill was passed by the Rajya Sabha. Now, it is 2018. It is still pending before the Lok Sabha. Now let us look at the status of private members' bills in India. If we look at the last bill that was passed in both houses, it was in 1970. In case of Rajya Sabha, we have seen that the bill will lapse if the member who introduces the bill gets retired from the Rajya Sabha. In case of Lok Sabha, the dissolution of Lok Sabha will lapse the bill. So because of these two reasons, many bills will get passed in one house, but in the second house it will lapse. So it was in 1970 that the last private member bill was passed in both the houses of the Parliament, and this was the Supreme Court Enlargement of Criminal Appellate Jurisdiction Bill of 1968. Now in total 14 private member bills have become law in the country, and among this 14, 5 were introduced in Rajya Sabha, the rest of them in the Lok Sabha. Now if we look at some important legislations which were brought in by private members bill, one was the 26th Amendment, that is the abolition of privy purses, and second one is the 61st Amendment, and the 61st Amendment reduced the voting age from 21 to 18. So 26th and 61st Amendment were the two important legislations that were brought in through a private members bill. Now the question is, India is a democracy. Democracy means people have the ultimate authority. So each member of parliament is a representative of the people. And when the Parliament gives a priority to the government bill, that is a bill introduced by the minister over a bill that is introduced by a private member, that is a member other than the minister, does it suit the democratic principles of the country? You can attempt to write an answer or an essay in this topic and you can send it to me on my Facebook page. I will respond to you with my suggestions. Thank you and I wish you all a very good day.